I would focus more on what I call high relevancy keywords. So if I have like a women's insulated metal water bottle, if I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand, depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shoppers. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus that I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent on performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exacts when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. I think it gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates are going to be low, high cost per clicks. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, struggling here. It's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords. Also make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored product, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding from there. Hello, and welcome back to another really awesome episode of Ask Junglr, where you show up and ask your Amazon ad questions and you get an answer from, can we call her, I want to say experts, but I feel like experts is so overused in this space that I'm going to devalue the level of insights and answers that we bring to this show by saying experts, but honestly, that's kind of probably the correct terminology. And so if this is your first time showing up, welcome. We're so excited to have you. We're streaming on several different platforms. If you are watching this as a replay or listening to this on podcast, yes, we have a podcast version of this as well. Because sometimes you don't want to listen to it on YouTube video. Maybe that's a little bit clunky. So we try and make this as easy as possible to access so you can get in and get answers to the questions so you can help leverage your Amazon advertising to grow sales. That's what we're trying to do, right? Nobody's interested in spending more money without sales growth. And so that's what we try and give you tips on. I don't want to say try. We do. We give good tips here. And with that, and with talking about giving good tips, today is another exciting episode where we bring on a guest. Yes, I am not the only knowledgeable Amazon ad person in the space. And so with that, we have Ryan saying we should call seasoned professionals. Yes, we are seasoned professionals. So today we have Neha she is the co-founder and CEO of Atom 11, which is a really interesting retail aware Amazon's ad optimization software.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So welcome to the show. I appreciate you dropping on with us.
Thank you. I'm honored. I think I've been following Ask Junglr for such a long time that it just feels like I think I've arrived in life that I'm here.
That's awesome. I know. I forget when I decided. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And so, yes, by the way, my husband's birthday and my 15-year wedding anniversary fell on a Thursday and I still showed up. So shows you how much I care. Anyway, not today though. Today's a regular Thursday. But yeah, so do you want to quickly introduce yourself to those who hopefully know you but may not know you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having me here. Hi, everyone. I'm Neha Bhuchar. I am the CEO and co-founder of Atom 11. Atom 11 is a Amazon PPC automation and optimization software. And like Elizabeth said, the USP is that apart from table stakes that Amazon ad softwares do, we are retail aware, which means that we combine seller central or vendor central data with advertising and let you automate things basis that let you automate your bids according to your your search ranks, or let you automate your whether you want to run your ads basis your inventory. So very cool concept. In fact, Elizabeth, retail aware is something we had to coin because there was nothing like that in the industry when we started building this. That's what we do. And very excited about this session.
Very cool. No, I love having people on the. I say people as in plural. I think we've had one other one who is aware of not just like the Amazon ad ecosystem and a lot of the technicalities to it, but also I find people who are leveraging building software to manage Amazon ads. You gotta know what like data points available, and there's so many more data points that are available inside of the APIs. And then so I don't know, I think it really brings a really cool perspective on like the data perspective to Amazon ads optimization, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I can take another minute, I remember I put in a poll on my LinkedIn profile some time ago as to, what do people do when they look at software? What do they use it for? And I think, what it was, is it analytics? Is it optimization? Or, something else? And of course, while there was a good, healthy amount of people who said optimization, data analytics actually,
Mhm.
shown. It's just like, people were, they really want good analytics, different slice and dices to be done, on an optimization platforms too. So that was cool to know.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I 100% agree with that because I think like any optimization to me, at least this is how I view it, is trying to get to some goal or outcome. It's, hit a target A cost, you want to grow sales, you want to make the product. Like, I put out a recent poll talking about, that kind of, there we go, poll. And it looks like pricing. A lot of people talking about pricing, inventory, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, there's a ton of different things people use when it comes to polls. And so, like for us, it's also okay. So if I know I'm trying to reach a goal, when I'm looking at analytics, like how am I tracking to said goal? That's what analytics tells me,
Yeah.
right? Which allows you to then make the I'm not getting there fast enough. This isn't working. Need to pivot, etc. But like that's, I think there's a data is an important word, but it almost feels like it's a buzzword in our space. Like be data driven, stupid. And then like a new seller comes in, they're like, what does that even look at where you are, figure out if you're getting closer or farther from where you want to be, do something to try and fix that. Like that's what data tells you at the end of the day. It's just
Storytelling. Yeah.
yeah, it's really yeah, good analytics platform is definitely storytelling for sure. I love that. Love that perspective. Cool. Well, it looks like we do have a question in the chat, so I'm excited for this. Which, if Joseph shows up here, Joseph asks really good questions, really, really good questions. So I appreciate you, Joseph. If you have any ad questions, that is the format of this. Feel free to drop them in the chat, and wherever you are listening, we'll bring it up. And we'll get Nia's take on this as well. But Joseph says, hey, would you know, this is, so data analytics, here we go. Do you know a formula to calculate the MAC cost per click on an individual keyword based off of a desired ACoS? And then there's a two-part question. We maybe will tackle that second. But he said, let's say an ACoS based on a break even of an item's price. So this goes to which ad optimizations is really about bid optimizations. So Nia, I'd love to hear your take on, is there a specific calculation?
Yeah. See, there are different ways of, how people try to optimize ads. There are three ways as of that I know. One is they do rule based. Once you get to your target ACoS, that's it. You pause. As soon as your ACoS moves, you kind of do a bid up or a bid down. There are formula based. You kind of use like an AOV into conversion rate into target ACoS to figure out what should be your the max bid, for example, that you've talked about here. Or then there is AI or ML, which basically kind of ups and downs bids basis certain data points. It could be efficiency at a certain point of the day, or it could be other parameters. So there are different types. If you're specifically looking for a formula, I think max CPC, it comes out to be the AOV into the conversion rate into target ACoS to figure out what should be your maximum CPC. My take usually is that you also need to look at your objective. Someone said, right, every advertising answer can be, it depends, right? Like if you have a certain objective, if you are looking at sales increase, right, and you want sales at any cost, then at that point, do you want to go by a max CPC, or do you want to go by the market dynamics to see what are other people bidding at? Am I okay going over that bid or not? So I think, of course, there could be a maximum CPC, and that could be driven by a formula. But there is something called market dynamics, which is very important when it comes to performance ads, where your bid-based ads, right, where other people also impact whether your ads will be shown or not. There will need to be a certain amount of experimentation involved.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a A really good point. Yeah, there is, and I'm going to butcher the calculation right now. But you attend. There is a way to do it that was pretty simplistic. It's taking the sales multiplied by your sales multiplied by target A cost divided by the number of clicks. And that will give you your max CPC to reach target A cost. So if you wanted a basic formula, which Neha was saying, like there are formulas out there, which she's cautioning against, and which I would 110% agree with, is when you calculate that max CPC, how competitive is that in like terms of like, because it's an ad auction, right? How competitive is that in the market? Are you going to completely cut off any and all impressions? Because if it's a very low conversion rate keyword, um, go run the, maybe not apply the formula, but maybe go run it for something that has like really high A costs. A lot of times the calculated bid is going to be like 15 cents. So you might be bidding like $1 and then like max CPC, which would 100% be correct. And I have a really I have a good friend in this space, and we filmed a video on this. He was talking about it. It's called like a revenue per click model, right? Because that's really what it is. It's saying, hey, I'm going to make this much. I can afford to spend this much, black and white. His argument for using a revenue per click model, he's bringing me around to it, is at the end of the day, if you're hitting target A costs, you are using a revenue per click model. And so in that case, you can get there faster if you just straight up calculated the revenue per click. I agree with that logic, but I also know there are some scenarios in which you blanket apply that logic and you hurt yourself in terms of sales and ranking volume. And that's what Neha's saying, which is 100% correct, right? Is just be aware of how those things are applied. So if you want sort of like another way to think about this, or like a way to apply it and then like be careful of sort of like the outputs, what we will actually do is we might calculate something similar, although we have a little bit more of a different logic tree. We kind of have branches to it in our bid algorithms. And then what we'll do is say, okay, this is what the calculation tells me my bid needs to be at. This is what I see in terms of the performance, conversion rate, how far I am from my target A cost, how many orders is this thing driving, like how sensitive do I need to be? And the more important that our sort of logic tree determines that keyword is to my sales growth strategy, I will be careful with how quickly or how drastically I will change that bid down. Is our sort of logic. So it's like apply logic, but still put a fail safe so you don't have any like terrible things that happen in terms of like completely cutting off all sales at a main keyword, right? So just hopefully that was helpful. But he does have another one, which maybe we'll touch on. This is sort of the part 2. He was saying also any strategies for Prime Day. I know we talked about this a little bit last week with Brian, but Neha would love to get your thoughts on Prime Day strategy.
Love it. I'll try to keep it short. Just the top 3. Because there's so many things that I can talk about for Prime Day. My favorite is don't dilute your ad spend on all your ASINs. Focus ASINs is a very underutilized optimization technique. People like to go ahead and advertise everything on Prime Day, given if there are limited budgets. Just your focus ASINs and make sure that you are spending more on those. These are also ASINs which are your top selling ASINs, so you will have better ACOS on them. They'll sell more, and basically for a low spend you'll get more returns. So that's number 1, and I believe it's one of the most underutilized optimization techniques. Number 2 that I would suggest is that during Prime Day, so we've seen multiple reports by now. I think we've seen so many Prime Days by now. Do not daypart. I think again something that because it's dayparting something that people set it and forget it. They forget to pause daypartings during Prime Day events. traffic surges at 12. It
Mm.
does not go down until 12 p.m., which is so that's where about 50% of the sales happen. So do not day part. If you absolutely do want to, then just figure out what are the timelines. I think it's between like 1 and 3 p.m. when traffic goes down. Just do it at that time, but do not day part. That is going to be the second one. And the third one is going to be don't ignore brand ads during Prime Day. So this is an excellent time to highlight your brand. And I know that sponsored products make up 80% of everyone's ad spend percentage. But this is an excellent time to buckle up on your sponsored brands, even if it's just for a day. Very good time. You'll get good returns in overall, because this is when high intent customers are coming in. Even if they don't shop, they will notice your brand name on the top, right? So those three will be will be something that you will probably hear less of. You will hear increase
Hmm.
your budget, increase your bids, don't go out of budget, all of that. But I think these three you probably won't hear of a lot. So I think I just thought I'd bring those out.
No, I love it. I love getting the other perspectives because I agree with the day parting. Although, again, maybe I should make a post, or you should make a post and tag me, or maybe we'll clip that because that was a really good tip on there. And then yes, also looking at what making sure you're not on a budget. I know for us, just giving our perspective, I had to put Prime Day into a nutshell. Strategies during Prime Day, it's really to your point of focusing on the products that work, not completely blowing up budget on everything. I love that because I think that's a great thesis even outside of tentpole days. Just a really good thesis is what is a product driving, what kind of budgets are warranted, because Amazon will tell you increase all your budgets. I've been loving making memes on LinkedIn recently. So Amazon's like, hey, let blow up all your budgets weeks before, right? So for us, it's focusing in on what we have validated worked months before. It's not launching a whole bunch of new campaigns, and it's not even blowing our budgets up weeks and weeks before Prime Day. It's saying let's condense our budget on what we know works. So to your point of which products worked, which campaigns work, which sponsored brands work, let's put our budgets there. And so for us, someone actually asked me on a podcast the other day, hey, are you guys like really busy during Prime Day? And I was like, well, it's a different, yes, but it's a different kind of busy. So for us, actually most of the time intensive legwork happens the month and weeks leading up into Prime Day to make sure our ads are fully prepped, meaning we're not running any crazy high cost test strategies that aren't going to make sense during Prime Day. We're making sure we're cleaning up everything that we don't really want to be intensely spending on, being really intentional. If we want to test anything, testing it beforehand. Those tests, although, are not they are time sensitive and in which we have a deadline, but what day, you could do that late in the evenings or in the morning, whenever you have time. It could be, at your leisure in some ways. And then Prime Day, it's very intense. It is very time sensitive, but it's more bids, budgets, making sure that things are running properly. So yes, it's time intensive. The actions that you're doing are not, I don't know, for us, maybe it's, I don't know if you guys find it the same, but it's there's not a lot of actions that are happening, but there's very specific actions, time and sensitive actions. And then post is kind of clean up. Yeah, Peyton says great. Thank you. So I think I figured out how to make memes work on LinkedIn. I just have to poorly Photoshop my face on the format, and it works. Every other meme I've tried, nobody liked, and I'm like, dang it, I love memes. So I'm just gonna keep spamming memes because they're my favorite.
And they're funny too.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, so hopefully we might get some more Prime Day questions, but yeah, I think that was a really good thesis, and I appreciate your perspective on that. Jeffrey has another good question regarding price, category, and day parting. So here we go, day parting again. Do you find day parting to be less effective when you're selling a high price supplement? Interesting questions. I don't know if you have any thoughts on day parting in general that
Yeah.
you found.
I am a self-proclaimed queen of day parting.
Nice.
It's self-proclaimed, so I don't know. See, I do not think so. Day parting is something which I think until now has been looked upon as some time where you pause or reduce your bids or budgets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people think of it as a spend reducing activity. We actually have a framework, and I would love to share it with you guys. We have a framework where we say that departing is actually about two things. One,
Hmm.
spend more when you sell more. So yeah, so I'll come to your question, Jeff. So the first part is what gets ignored. So spend more when you sell more. So let's assume that you sell a lot on Mondays and Wednesdays. That's the time when you increase your bids and or increase your budgets. Let's say that you sell very little during 7 p.m. Oh, sorry, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's when it's family time and
Mm-hmm.
people convert less. That's when you reduce your bids, right? And the problem with day parting on how it has been set up for years is that people set up day parting for every single campaign.
Mm.
Now, the framework that, if I get to share it with you, is that you not only look at, the time and the day of the week where you are either, you're increasing your sales or decreasing your conversion, but also which campaigns are the ones which are leading to that low conversion. It's a simple pivot table activity. You're making a pivot on time of the day. You can also make a pivot on the campaigns, and just set up your day parting on campaigns which are not performing at a certain time of the day, or campaigns which are not performing on the certain day of the week. That way you do not lose sales, and you always get a better ROI on you setting up a day party. With this framework, I've actually seen over 90% success rate. I mean, you people who've used this framework, I've never heard, most of the clients that we work with, we actually help them set up their first day party. We're actually now setting up a productized a product page on our website where you will be able to just go and upload your hourly data, and you will be able to get what time should you be departing. It's still work in progress, but that's what we're planning to do, because we've seen how incorrectly people set up their departing. And more than happy to send that framework to you, because it is ineffective only if it is done incorrectly. So I'm sure you've tested a few things, but just test out, going more granular into your data campaign at a campaign level as well as the time level, and then figuring out, what works best or when should I be departing. So yeah.
No, I love that. I love that because I agree with that as well. I think if anyone goes into day party, like, so being a supplements category, it's a very expensive category, and we have found that leveraging budgets or any sort of spend control on very selective keywords that might like immediately spend the entirety of the budget can be a useful strategy in these sort of very expensive categories. But to your point, it is a very strategic and selective strategy in which we've run. And I 100% agree with your thesis. If your ads are not bringing you the return that you want, and you're looking to day parting as like a way to solve the ad spend issue that you're up against, or the performance issue, 100% like day parting will not be the savior of high ad spend. It is a way to enhance a strategy that underlying is working. So Jeff, that may have been what you found. Nia, I love that framework that you put in. I'm going to have to contact you after this. We should film an entire video on just that, because I find, I agree with you. There's a lot of, I feel like now we have the data to do day parting. Before, the concept of day parting is not new, actually. It's been around for years. And historically, there just hasn't been any data to say this is definitive. Like we can't pull it. Like you would kind of guess, I think this is kind of the hours of the day, right? Like this is when I get my sales and my business reports. So therefore it was like a complete crapshoot, shot in the dark. I think it's working, and if it doesn't work, I don't know why, and I can't figure it out, right? Now we have the data to do it. So to your point of being intentional, getting granular is amazing. I would love to revisit, and maybe we can talk about that depending on how many questions we have here. I might have a couple of questions for you on that. But no, great perspective on the day parting. I was muted for some random reason. I don't think I clicked that button. Maybe I did. Anyways, so if anyone has any follow-up questions, if we've said anything and it sparked curiosity, feel free to use the chat to get any follow-up questions. But we got some good ones coming here on targeting. Motivate Wave. Hey, I've run different campaigns like auto, exact keyword campaigns, but exact is consuming most of the budgets after selecting the best keywords. Any strategy? I know I have my own thoughts on this, but Neha, I'd love to get yours.
So I'm just trying to make sense of the question. So basically, what Motivate is asking is that Exact ends up consuming all my budget. Do you want to know how to save your budget, or like, yeah? If is that the right way of understanding the question?
I'm not really sure, because so my answer to this question would have been, is that a bad thing? As far as the exact match consuming all of the budget, because most likely, at least this has been our experience, is that exact match, I'm assuming you're talking about sponsored product campaigns specifically. If not, my answer might be slightly different, but those tend to be the most strategic types of campaigns to run for ranking purposes.
Yeah.
And so if the majority of your budget is going to ranking strategies, then I see no problem with this. Now, my guess, and this is typically these questions, like when someone asks you, like, how do I rank for this keyword? You're like, exact match, high bid, top of search, push all your ad budget, right? And then the follow-up question's like, well, no, that actually wasn't the question. The question was, how can I be profitable and run these ranking strategies, right? Because it's ranking strategies are pretty cut and dry. How to get profits and not lose money on those, that's the hard part. So that would be my guess if you're saying like the exact match keywords are eating up all the budget. So Motivate Wave, if you have any follow-up questions on this, if you're still watching, feel free to drop them in the chat. I would say if that is the real issue, if all the budget is going there and you have your all exact match, I would start tracking total ACoS over ACoS. Because if the ranking strategies are working, and working means you're seeing increases in rank for your products on those keywords, you should be seeing a sales increase there. And so there is a very real scenario in where ACoS is higher than you might typically want to have it. But because your total sales are growing from your advertising efforts, then it actually makes sense to run it a little bit higher ACoS. And the number that will tell you if that is in fact the case in your account or if it's not would be your total ACoS, which is your ad spend divided by your total sales. So if you maintain the same ad spend but total sales increase, then your account will be much better off overall. But if you have any follow-up questions to that, feel free to pop them in the chat. Looks like we got some rolling through, so maybe we'll try and get through these. Saad says, hey, both. Hey, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for your question. How to check if sales are generated through posts in Amazon? Which report do you check? Do you know where they end up if the sale is coming through a post? I believe there is, it's been a hot minute. We manage posts for clients back in the day, and then their product wasn't really applicable to it. They didn't have a lot of creatives, so we stopped. There is some reporting. If you go inside the ad console, if you go into posts, There are reports that will tell you about the conversions. So that's where the reporting would be. It's been a hot minute since I looked in there, so I couldn't tell you like what the report was called or where it's downloaded. I just know it's located in the post section of the ad console, unless you've seen anything different.
Not me. So one other way of getting to know that would be if you are using sponsored brands on posts. I think that could be one way of knowing, what are the kind of sales coming through that. But otherwise, I think it'll just be the post page. So yeah, I think I would just go with the same answer.
Yeah. This is a good question. Next up. We're doing well. All right. What are some of the most expensive PPC categories right now? There are some doozies out there.
Oh God. I'm gonna just like, okay, if I have to go to take the first take, skincare, and supplements. I think everyone is scared of supplements by now. I think skincare and supplements would be my first guess. I want to add one more thing, just my perspective is that it may not be the most expensive, but it is expensive because of their low margins, which is commodity categories.
Yes.
It is not expensive, probably if you sort it down, but just expensive to sell those because of low AOVs and people not even discovering or scrolling down to discover more and more products. So you kind of have to buy TOS placements for that. But I think off the top of my head, skincare and supplements shine on. What do you think, Elizabeth?
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen the same thing. So anything that has a repeat purchase quality to it. So sometimes not all food categories as much. A lot of the pet categories, pet supplements, there you go. I mean, that's kind of like a hybrid, right? But a lot of those can be really expensive. And I've had some brands come to us and they look at the keyword, they're like, oh, we want to advertise in this keyword. And we're like, okay, it's $8 a click. Do you want we'll run it, but like FYI, right? Or I've seen worse than that, $15, $20 a click. It's insane. The worst cost per click I ever saw was $85.
Was it like diapers?
It was not. It was in clothing.
Clothing? I am shocked.
Crazy.
Wow.
That was actually ad waste. Somebody put an insane top of search on a $75 bid on a keyword they should never have been advertising on. I was aghast and immediately add negatives. That was terrifying. But like, so, I mean, sometimes you find them in weird categories, but yeah, anything with repeat purchase, because in those categories, a lot of the savvy sellers are factoring in lifetime value of the customer, which is a very classic, say, marketing model. Okay, I can afford to lose out on the first sale because I know on average I make 10 more from, every consumer who purchases or whatever. And so those categories, like you said, like very low order value, so like $10 or $15 and then spending $15 a click, like you're like, the economics just don't make sense. They do if you look over a longer time horizon. Fun fact, actually tracking total ACoS in these categories is the way to go because that will factor in the repeat purchases.
Yeah.
So that can be very helpful. But a lot of brands are like, I can't believe somebody like would afford to do that. And you're like, well, somebody is. Like, if you're not willing to pay it.
Yeah, no, I think classic CPG companies do that, right? For offline too, they will factor in customer lifetime value. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah. This is a great one. Why don't enough people talk about broad modifiers? Do you talk about broad modifiers? I do. Yes, go for it.
I love broad modifiers because you don't have to negate a lot when it comes to those. They are slightly better than broad. I think that how much attention a topic gets, this is just again my perspective, is also dependent on how much importance Amazon gives to that specific topic. So when broad came in, Amazon was all about, oh my god, broad is going to be your savior because you will not have to add so many different keywords. Just come on, add a broad and you'll be good to go. You're good to go, and then you can just kind of harvest keywords from there. Broad modifier just never got that attention from. It's just like the stepchild of all the different match types. Never got that attention. I think it could have been because of when Amazon would have run tests, they might not have seen some kind of results. I don't know, but broad
Mm-hmm.
modifiers, they work amazingly well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why enough people don't talk about it. This is my hypothesis, because I've never seen a lot of attention given to it in any of the conversations or any of the support material from Amazon. But at the end of the day, they work well, so we use
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Same. I don't think Amazon has published it a lot. For anyone who doesn't know what a broad match modifier is, FYI, it's simply a little plus symbol in front of individual word that you put into a broad match targeting that just tells Amazon, hey, make sure this root word is contained within the search query, whatever search query is triggered. So if you put that plus in front of one, only that one root word is, you're telling Amazon, I want this root word. If you do it in front of all of them, it's going to function like a traditional broad match. Used to function, no longer functions. That's a whole can of worms. But yeah, so definitely with the dynamic and the way that Amazon is changing their match type targeting, broad match modifiers, I think, are starting to get the recognition they deserve, is maybe a good way to put it.
Absolutely. I think with broad becoming so broad that it's unimaginable at this point, with semantic broadening coming in, I think absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Great way to keep on. Ryan just pulled it up, but the Amazon's documentation on how their match types work. I have that documentation page saved, because what we've noticed is that whenever Amazon makes a change to how their match types work, they don't tell us. We,
Oh, God.
number one, find out weird things are happening via paying attention to our search term reports. And then
Yeah.
two, everybody freaks out and nobody knows what's going on, and everybody coordinates that this is happening to everybody else. And then three, they quietly update the documentation on this page. So it's a good one to have bookmarked, just to be like, wait, something changed. Is this correct? Yep, they updated the documentation.
Lovely.
So fun times we live in. Interesting. Cool. All right, I'm rolling right on here. How do you? Oh, wait. This one we talked about posts. Let's see. Let's pull up where we are. There's so many questions coming up, which is awesome. Broad match modifiers. Yes, keep on lock those search pages. All right. On weekends. All right. Here's another one from Joseph. On weekends, my sales are down 20% and tacos shoots up. I've tried to place an account budget cap based on the sales anticipation, but it hasn't really worked out. Yes. Budget caps aren't that great. We're dealing with that. Maybe we can go into that. But is there anything else? Neha, do you have any ideas on what Joseph might try?
If my sales are down on weekends, so are we trying to improve sales or are we trying to improve tacos? We can take both the flavors. So if we are trying to improve sales, well, if the sales are down, all you can do is increase clicks on that day, right? So let's say you go via the click increase strategy for weekends, which means you're trying to cannibalize your competitors' sales or eat into their market share. Now, to increase sales, what you could do is increase clicks. How to increase clicks? Go to reduce bids and increase TOS, which that is what is going to give you a higher number of clicks, actually way higher clicks than what you would have imagined. It'll be expensive though. So you increase your GVs, that increases your sales. And number two could be you figure out those two or three competitors where if you target those more or more aggressively, you can steal their sales, reducing your price and then targeting those competitors. That would be one in terms of increasing the sales. And if you're trying to reduce your tacos, which means that you know that your sales are going to be down, then you day part. You day part during your weekends and you reduce your spend. And I think that might be a more spend efficient way of going about this strategy. So you day part, you reduce your bids or budgets my preference would be budget, but either of those, and spend less on days when you sell less.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Nia. It sounds like the day parting solution is probably going to be the best one for you. My read on this is it's probably lowering total A cost. You might also want to do an evaluation as to why your sales are going down on the weekends. Like, is it that traffic is decreasing, or is it that my gut feeling here is that conversion rates decrease on the weekends? You might have the same level of traffic. The traffic doesn't convert as well. In that case, how Nia was talking about before, the framework for day parting and being more intentional with specifically what campaigns you spend your budget on, then it might also be helpful if you're looking at it from a day parting perspective to say, okay, I know the root cause of total A cost going up on weekends is a dip in the conversion rates. So therefore, can I analyze which campaigns I get the best conversion rates from within my ads on the weekends, and then sort of shift budgets, to lower things that I know I have poor conversion rates on, and then you can still maintain some level of some level of advertising there. And then, yeah, what we've seen with the budget caps, we're dealing with this as well. Budget caps are the easiest and quickest way to immediately correct overspend, right? It's maybe not a very good long-term solution. Yes, your campaigns will get paused. There's fluctuations and issues there, right? But we have a brand right now. We're like, hey, we must get budget down to X. Okay, we're going to set a budget cap. We know we can get there, right? And then we'll figure out everything else under it. But it will be the most strategic, like quick implementation. There's reverberations and, potential losses off of that. But like, if you must control spend, budget caps.
Yeah.
The issue with that is that with the budget caps, Amazon elects to say, hey, if we feel like you have so check your settings, because they'll say we can up to double your budget throughout the day if your average spend throughout the month hasn't quite tracked to what we know. So actually what they do is they take your daily budget, they see how many months or how many days are in that month, they divide your budget by all those days in the month, and they say, okay, this is about on average, and we're going to go a little above, a little below. Well, it used to be 25% above or below. Now they elected to give themselves the option by default to up to double your budget on a single day. If they say, hey, you only spent $50 out of your $100 budget last Tuesday, I'm going to take that $50. Thank you very much. I'm going to put it on today. And you're like, wait a minute, like, where did this come from? And so my guess is that's what you're seeing is Amazon's like, although you've capped the budget, they're pulling from other days of the month that maybe you haven't quite reached the budget where you're at. Or other infuriating things is that the sponsor display and sponsor brand ads are not included in that budget cap. So your sponsor product ads may be shutting off, but maybe your sponsor brands and display ads are spending. So it wasn't a wrong test to try that, but my guess is that's why you're sort of like maybe not quite seeing. You're like, I told Amazon they only had $50 to spend, and they spent $200. Like, what gives? Most likely that's it.
I think a very good point. Actually, short-term budget cap is great. Very good point. Long-term, what if your budget cap is shutting off your campaign at the time when you might be converting more, right? So long-term, maybe just look at a good strategy for day parting. I think that is a very good point.
Cool. So I see it looks like Saad asked this question again on a different platform. So yeah, posts, I would go check posts, and Neha was saying they might also be generated through sponsored brands. So you can check that, those reports as well, because your brand store will also have reports as well. Ooh, I like this one. Great one. Let's get into some controversy. Most people are saying do not negate good search terms in the discovery campaigns. But the concept is that we negate the ranking campaign keywords in the negative exact of discovery campaigns to avoid fighting between discovery and ranking campaigns. Do you think this is good to not negate the customer search terms? Great question. I have my own thoughts, but Nia, I'm going to get yours first.
Okay, sure. I love this question, first of all. And negation is such a cool topic because, what makes negation such a controversial topic is that negation is a one-way door. Once you've negated a keyword, the only way you can get impressions is, you unnegating, and we all know no one unnegates. My answer to this question is that personally, I don't like to negate good search terms. If because and this is just probably my experience with being in the Amazon algorithm for 6 years, says is that campaign history is very, very important when it comes to how a search term performs. For last 14 days campaign history can actually if you're negating a good search term, you're actually losing out on the good history that keyword has generated over the last 14 days, so you're pretty much like undoing the impact. But there is one use case where people do negate the search term, and that might be very close to what you're saying, but it is definitely not to avoid fighting between discovery and ranking campaigns, because keywords do not, within the same account, do not fight for the second. Uh, they do not fight against the bid, right? Like you're not fighting against your own keywords. Having said that, there is only one use case that I've found until now where negating the keyword can still be an okay strategy, which is harvesting the keyword from auto to phrase manual, and then negating it in auto, and then harvesting the good keywords from phrase manual to exact manual. So this is a chain campaign. That could be one, and this is a very, I think, a common strategy that we've seen people do. So when you're doing that, and at that point, if you're negating your search terms, I think all you're trying to do is giving other keywords the opportunity to bubble up. So in an auto campaign, since your budget is limited and you already have an exact match campaign and a phrase match campaign for that, which you've set up as a chain. You want more and more keywords to be harvested in your auto campaign, which you might not be able to do if that good performing keyword is already there. So it's basically taking up a lot of budget. That could be one use case. I personally have never come up with any other use case where you negating a good performing campaign is going to give you, is not leading to losses. So that's my take. Yeah.
No, okay, good. We're not going to have to have a smackdown disagreement in this conversation. I was like, I have my own opinions. I'm not going to be mean about it. But no, that's essentially the way that we would go about this as well. So here's where I sit on this, is I get the logic. 100% agree with the logic. And the fact of, if you negate, you want to force the impression so you can control the ad budget going to this specific keyword. I want to force the impressions, right? Actually, if you read Amazon's documentation, it's worded a little bit strange, but when it's like, do keywords compete or products compete? In some ways they might kind of, because you might get some impressions here and some impressions there. So you might be splitting impressions, which is the logic against doing this. You're like, hey, I want all my impressions to come through my exact match campaign, right? However, similar to what you have seen is in practice, we have the logical steps, and then we talk about being data driven, what works. Sometimes the things that work, and when I say work, I mean in terms of decreasing cost per clicks, and hence decreasing cost per clicks, meaning better ACoS, is infuriating and does not track with the logic that we would think. Right, similar things I'm going to copy this campaign, same product, same keyword, same everything. Why does it not perform the same? Logic dictates same exact thing should be the exact same. Performance tells me something completely different. That makes no sense to me. I just know what this is. So what we've seen is that if something is working in an auto and abroad, oftentimes if you move it or you're trying to force something to happen in another match type, it doesn't always replicate the same performance. And sometimes you'll have higher ACoS on something. So I would prefer, even though technically I'm splitting out impressions, so that would be correct. And if I'm trying to force Amazon's hand on something, that logic is sound. But what I've found oftentimes when we try and force Amazon's hand on something, it comes back to bite us in terms of really terrible performance. So I'm like, all right, I would like this to happen, but I'm gonna let you do your thing. Give me lower cost per clicks. But similar to what Neha was saying is there are certain strategic times. So for example, maybe you're doing a product launch and, you know, a couple weeks down the road, you launch an auto campaign and you see your main keyword continuously show up on the auto and it's sucking up all the budget. And you're like, I really like, I'm already spending on this keyword, but I'm controlling the spend through like an exact match, or like, you know, my entire $50 a day budget on this campaign is going to this one keyword. And like the ACoS is higher than I really want it to be. And like all of those things. Is that keyword technically quote working because it's driving sales? Yes. Is it at a price that we don't really want to afford? And maybe if we have more limited budgets, it makes sense to force Amazon's hand there because again, we don't want that placement at that cost. So if I'm cutting off something that I'm not okay with the performance of, that to me makes logical sense. But if I'm just like, this is the way it must be because my logic dictates and then performance degrades because of it, in that case, that's where I end up having a problem with, again, these things that like make all logical sense, but in practice I've found don't necessarily improve the account.
Yeah, market dynamics, they come in, and campaign history is a super important parameter when it comes to Amazon ads. So, but good point. I think if it's eating up all the budget and you have something which is performing well, then we decide.
We gotta. Oh, this is good one. Thought experiment. Oh, thought experiments here. How much budget do you think one must be ready to deploy for launching a supplement brand? That is a loaded question.
Loaded, loaded, loaded. Wow. It depends. I love it depends. I just love that phrase. It's just it depends how much, if it's well, I hope there is no brand out there which is launching a supplement brand without VC funding. Um, Let me think about this before I answer.
I can give you what I think while you're thinking about it.
Yeah,
And you let me know. Let me know where I'm wrong.
always. I think these are all best practices, right? I mean, I think we all do what it suits us, but I think it's always good to know the perspective so that, when you are in the situation, you are able to look into that. Yeah.
Yes. So we think about it in terms of like, so if you're thinking how much budget, it's in terms of how many clicks do I need and how much are those clicks going to cost me is really the way I would think about it. And that can be as much or as little as you want. To a point, which I will clarify, because how much you're willing to spend dictates how many clicks you can afford to get. And then your conversion rate is going to determine how many orders you're going to obtain from those clicks. So you can spend less, but that means I can afford less, which means I'm going to get less.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, like you can start with a lower budget. The problem is going to be, what if I only get 2 orders a day from that budget? Am I going to be really happy with that? Probably not, right? And then the problem, so we had mentioned, really crazy clicks in supplement category, again, due to the repeat purchase nature and, subscribe and save options and all kinds of, really good long-term, like there's a lot of money to be had in selling supplements on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
There's also a lot of costs that are incurred. And so with those high costs per clicks, my budget is eaten up faster. And so that's where you're going to, the way that we approach it is really sort of taking a look at the market, market in terms of search terms, which you can do through many keyword research tools. Looking at what I am forecasting as my average cost per clicks. You can get that. Helium 10 has that. I believe Jungle Scout has that. Other keyword research tools will also tell you the forecasted cost per click, which is actually pulled from Amazon's API. So they'll give you, you know how you go into the account and there's suggested bids. However,
Yeah.
those suggested bids will change based on a lot of different factors. So they're not set in stone, but it's the best. Everyone I talk to who looks at like Helium 10 CPR or like Amazon suggested bids or suggested cost per clicks, they're like, it's not great, it's not accurate, it's the best we got. So we're gonna like, that's all we got to use, so we're gonna go off of that. And so what you can kind of do, you basically shape it from two angles. So you go, this is what my search market looks like, this is the cost of my search market, this is what I think I can afford to do based on my search market. Given what I think the product may convert at, what will I get from that budget? Do I think it's enough to rank on what subsection of keywords? And then can I afford that? Yes or no? Okay, I'm not happy with that outcome in terms of order value. Maybe I should work on to give. So it's really, we collaborate with brands on this a lot. And I find a lot of brands do themselves a disservice by not looking at their launch strategy in terms of their cash flow and resource availability. I think that's something you really need to look intently at. Neha, you're saying like hopefully not getting into like supplements without some sort of, you know, venture backed or like some sort of money. Supplements is not something to get in if you're like, I have $50 and once this $50 is done, if I don't make it, I'm losing all my money and I have no cash flow. Like it's not the market to get into. If you can afford to do it though, it can be very lucrative. But you kind of, again, you want to look at it from what is the search potential? How much is that going to cost? What piece of this market can I afford? So it's not a cut and dry answer, but I think if you can look at it from that perspective, you'll get pretty close to what you need to be.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just like extract the answer. I'm not going to, this is not original answer now. I think I'm going to extract from what you said. And I'm just going back to the time when we had to do a budget calculation for one of the brands. It was not in supplements, but this is what we did, exactly what you said, right? We went to one of the keyword research tools. We picked up, I think, the top 50 or 60 must-win keywords, looked at the CPC for it. We multiplied it with, you know, the number of clicks that we would need to get in the first, let's say first 2-3 months, basis, you know, the GVs that we are looking at or the GVs that we were targeting. So organic GVs, additional GVs that we need from ads, so you need X number of clicks multiplied with the CPCs. And I think that's how we calculated the budget required to get into that category. And I don't think that getting into supplement or calculating the budget for a supplement brand would be any different. It's just that the data is going to be different, which means that the CPC for that keyword is going to be higher. So I think the strategy remains the same. So
yeah, no, I 100% agree with that logic. I actually looks like you're asking me internally, which is awesome. I actually put a post today breaking down forecasting because a lot of people are like really scared and have no idea how to do forecasting. So I actually have a post breaking down forecasting, and then if you want to DM me, I have a forecast calculation tool that I'd be more than happy to get for you. So if anyone is interested in that, feel free. Maybe we'll have time. Are you going to hard stop? We're up against the hour, but we got a ton of questions. Maybe I'm going to have to like go back through these comments, or maybe we'll bring them up next week. I think we got time for one more good question, which is a great one. All right, so Motive Wave, we have a follow-up to this. Which keywords should I select for exact campaign, like long tail or short tail keywords, as this is consuming all the budget? So it sounds like it is a cost issue with the exact match. Can you tell me what type of keywords I should select? Motive Wave, I'm not sure if you're still watching. If you are, I'm just going to go off the assumption that this is for ranking purposes. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, so if it is cost, because exact match is very expensive, usually you would probably do it for long tail. But if it is for ranking, then I think it's a straightforward answer of going for, short tail keywords, your must win keywords, which
Mhm.
in another language. So yeah, that would be my short answer.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Good point there. One other like twist I would say to that, 100% agree. If you're going after ranking keywords, like go after where you feel you can get the most bang for your buck. If you have data on it, so it sounds like you've been running these, you might want to look at it also from the lens of where do I feel like I have the most potential to rank on these keywords. So there is a real case scenario in which you're going after the more short tail, aggressive, high search volume keywords, and you're just not able to push up in the ranking because your conversion rate relative to the competition is not as competitive as it needs to be. So you also can look at it through the lens of where am I seeing the best conversion rates on these keywords? Search query performance is a great way to analyze that. Where do I have better than the competition? Because that, if you are continuously dumping ad dollars into something and not seeing increases in ranking, sometimes it's just a test it and see equation. But if you've run that test for a while, you're not seeing any movement, then it might make sense to reallocate that budget into something that you can move the needle on. Would be my only, again, agreeing with the same thing, ranking purposes, biggest bang for your buck. But just, I guess I would just say make sure it's working.
Yeah.
Cool. And with that, we are slightly over. I know we have so many. This has been a fantastic one. I appreciate your input here. It's been a great conversation. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, they're like, Adam 11 sounds interesting, love it, where would they do that?
The best way is to write to me or just connect with me on LinkedIn. I am super active on LinkedIn.
Nice.
So I think Ryan had flashed my LinkedIn this thing, or they could just go to our website and go to book a demo. You may not be booking a demo, but if you're just wanting to have a conversation with me, you basically come straight to my calendar. So happy to have a quick conversation, answer questions. Either go to my website, book a demo, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. Or my email is, I can drop in my email, neha@atom11.co. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure to get that to you. So this has been another fantastic episode. We appreciate it. Yeah, we're dropping links in the chat. Go check out Adam 11. Check out Neha on LinkedIn. She's putting out a lot of really great content there. And I appreciate you guys all joining into another Ask Junglr. By the way, for those of you following us on social media, you're probably watching this streaming on several different places, but we are opening up in sort of internal, so you can sign up, you can pre-ask questions now, so expect to see those links in a lot of our social posts and in our newsletter. So if you're not on our newsletter, I highly recommend you join in that. And going forward, we will be prioritizing the questions that are asked live in the StreamYard webinar chats, because unfortunately we couldn't get to everybody's questions today, but so if you're part of that, you will get priority in terms of answering questions. And if we, for some reason, cannot get to the questions, I will send a custom Loom video to anyone who is asked a question inside the StreamYard chat, because I can keep track of those. And also, fun announcement. We will drop the link. We did drop the link to the chat in this. I partnered with FBA Excel, is like an Excel-based ad optimization system. It's really awesome, run by a guy named Brent. We connected years ago. He's got an amazing brain. But we just put together a joint course, and it is the most in-depth rank, like Amazon PPC launch strategy content I have ever put out publicly. So totally free. Feel free to go to that web address, snag it, enter an email. You'll get immediate access. I actually have 2 free resources, including bonus points, how I was talking about looking at keyword research, forecasting ad budgets off of it. There is a tool to help do that in that in there. So highly recommend going and checking it out. And if you can't find the link, feel free to message me in any platform, and we'll make sure we get that to you. So, Neha, this has been amazing. Yes,
I have to say, first of all, this is, oh my God, I loved every second of this session because, just so much energy, first of all, and secondly, amazing questions. I mean, it really rakes your brain. That for a minute I was like, okay, it's been a while that I did that. So
Mm-hmm.
amazing questions. So Elizabeth, you are doing such a great job. Congratulations on that. And then
Thank you so
doing
much.
so much for the community. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, this is my favorite. I tell all the guests, I'm like, in a lot of ways, it's easier. There's not a lot of we don't have to pre-prep. There's no script. Totally on the fly. We're winging this as we go. Hopefully, we're doing good. But I'm like, yes, there's no prep, but it's like we've been prepping for the last however many years we've been doing this. Like the only way we can answer these questions is because you're in it, I'm in it. And so I appreciate you coming on here because I love getting the different perspectives, right? Like I have my perspective. You've added flavors to the conversations I haven't even thought of. Totally going to reach out. We're going to talk about that day parting strategy because I think the space needs it. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay